Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Easton-Calabria, and I'm a Senior Research Officer at the Refugee Studies Center. And today I have the distinct pleasure to introduce Yahya Alaus, who's the founder of an NGO called Zusammenwachsen in Berlin, which means growing together in German, and a journalist for Die Zuddeutsche. Do you know, I spoke German for half my life. Yeah. Die Suddeutsche Zeitung. Yahya understands.
Exactly,
it takes practice.
Exactly.
Which is one of Germany's main newspapers. So before I turn it over to Yahya, a bit of housekeeping for our audience today. So you'll see the chat function is disabled, but the question and answer function is ready and waiting for you. And today Yahya is going to speak in 3 parts. And so we'll pause after each part and have a few minutes for questions and answers. So by all means, ask questions as you're listening, and we'll continue on from there. So Yahya, I will remove myself for now and over to you.
Thank you very much, dear Ivan. I would like to thank you all for the invitation. And I'm really happy that I will take part in this seminar. My name is Yahya Alaus. I am a Syrian journalist. I came to Germany in 2015, and currently I'm living in Berlin. Actually, I started working as a journalist after I was graduated from the Media College in Damascus in 1995. Then I started working for some Arabic newspapers. Some of them were in Lebanon, some of them were in other countries. But I started since 2000 working as a professional journalist. Unfortunately, I had a bad experience in 2002 when I was arrested after writing few articles. Actually, it's not few, many articles on corruption or humans being rights. I stayed in prison for 2 years. Then I was released in 2004 when the very hard time started, because I was at that time not able to work with as I used before. I had no passport. I'm not allowed to travel out of the country. So I decided to work as a editor for online magazine, which is not or underground one. And this magazine called therein, working on women's issues or women's rights and children's rights. And for many people, it could be hard to believe that in a country like Syria could see a magazine working on women's rights. Actually, this is what was the truth, is that because there are few magazines that they don't work with the government, but working underground and working on a very sensitive issues like the domestic violence or the early marriage or child labor, or we started a lot of campaign, as example, like Stop Killing Women by the name of honor crimes. And we could, since 2004 till 2012, making a very good discussion about these issues, which was difficult to discuss in a society like the Syrian society, but we could play on a very little margin and working on these issues. As example, it's not so strange if I will see that we wrote about, as example, sex before marriage. It was like taboo or forbidden for the official media, but we were able to discuss such things, or about the homosexuality as example. We wrote a lot about it. We make a lot of reportages about these issues. We were writing about the effect of personal status law on the life of women, because we have 8 personal status law, which everyone connect to one minority. And this was making the life of women so hard. As example, for the divorce situation that was forbidden for few minorities, or for the polygamy, or for the domestic violence, was like a taboo. But in Syria at that time, we could write and make some good job about this. Unfortunately, this website couldn't go further after the revolution started in 2011, and we found ourselves in a very bad situation that we couldn't go any further. So we stopped this online magazine, and in 2011 I started working for a leading newspaper called Al-Hayat, which is was published in London, Beirut, and Riyadh. And I started working as a correspondent for them from Damascus from 2011 till 2015. At that time, the situation started getting worse, and staying in Syria was like dangerous for me. I'm not able to work anymore and to move freely, and I get a lot of threats, and to be honest, I don't want to risk my life at that time and make another bad experience in the prison, because I had at that time 2 daughters, and if I will be arrested, this could be the end for me. So in 2015, I decided to leave the country, and I was very lucky because I could get a visa through the organization Reporter Without Borders, and I could somehow manage to go out to Lebanon, and then I came to Germany in 2015 with my wife and my 2 daughters. This is briefly something about my life in Syria, and in 2015 I started completely different life, alone, without anybody from my extended family, my siblings and my friends. And this is what not an easy decision to make, because I left behind a lot of people, of my friends and my siblings, in a very bad situation. To be honest, I'm thinking all the time that maybe I disappointed them, because I thought about the salvation of myself and my family. But to be honest, I couldn't stay anymore there, because it was not a joke. It was really dangerous to stay there anymore. There are a lot of circumstances which happened in this year and pushed thousands or 100,000s of Syrians to leave their country and coming through the sea or Balkan way to Europe, just to survive from the war and to leave this torn country and keep their lives safe. In 2015, I came to a shelter in Berlin, historical shelter with a a lot of memories about those people who came from GDR, the East Germany, and I stayed there for a few months with my family, and I experienced for the first time how to be a refugee. Because I worked for few years before with the refugees inside Syria. I lived in a small city. And I decided with my wife to start helping the refugee who coming from a very hot area, which was bombed by the regime forces. So suddenly in 2015, I became a refugee, and this is what was not so easy to admit or to accept the situation, because I used to work as an assistant to help refugees, and now I need help. This didn't last for a long time, because after a few months, people in September 2015, Syrian people and Afghani and Iraqi people start coming to Germany, and I start to go to the main center and trying to help other refugees, because I speak English and I can translate to them from Arabic into English. And my wife did the same, and many other friends tried to help somehow. So my experience started at this time different. I am between two options: my personal situation, which is I need to start a new life. I don't know how much time I will stay in this country, if I will go back, it was really mysterious times. But in the end, I say that I have to start doing something. Actually, regarding my career as a journalist, I was lucky to get a chance to work as a journalist to be honest, not as a journalist, as a freelancer, because I don't have a contract to work with Suddeutsche Zeitung. So I get the chance to write an article in August 2015, and it was a nice one. So everyone started talking about this article, and a few days later, the magazine itself, newspaper itself, decided to give me monthly column. So since that, I'm working as a columnist for this famous newspaper. I'm writing under the title My Life in Germany. I'm writing about the life of refugees, about my personal life, about many other things, because I have good connections to the community of refugees. So I'm trying just to express how our lives seems. Sometimes my writings is funny, sometimes it's sad, but actually it's express the real life of Syrians, which in Europe or in Germany, which is sometimes good, sometimes bad. This is regarding, actually, I just want to add something, because when I could find to be in touch with my career as a journalist, and I didn't stop writing since that, there are a lot of colleagues, journalist colleagues, and they are really talented journalists, and they have a lot of things in Syria, and unfortunately they couldn't find the opportunity to work as a journalist. Many of my colleagues, they don't have any hope to be in touch even with their career as a journalist. Maybe because they don't speak English well, or maybe they couldn't understand the society as I did or as I tried to do. Many of them are working or searching for work as example, security men or as drivers, which is very difficult for them. I have friends who worked in Syria as lawyers or journalists or writers, and now they're working as drivers or as workers in restaurants or in cafe or delivery jobs. And this can be very difficult for them. Actually, I'm not so far away from this because I don't have a contract, but at least I'm still trying to start as a journalist. I cannot be something else, but I don't know if I can keep fighting in this because the situation getting worse now, and this is not easy in those careers to work as a journalist in Germany, because there are a lot of obstacles. First is the language, the German language, which is very difficult. I'm doing my language course since 6 years, and I almost speak a little bit. I can work a little bit, speak a little bit in German. For the other people, it's not easy, especially for those people who are over 40 years old. This is make things more difficult. This is for the first part I want to talk. If there is any questions, even if you hear me, so I'm ready to answer.
Great, thank you so much, Yahya.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've already shared so much. We've gotten a really rich spread there. One question that's sort of a research question, actually, is going back to the very first part of what you talked about, because you talked about working in really hard conditions and talking about and writing about really sensitive issues. How were you identifying people to talk with, and how kind of was safety always an issue? And could you talk about how you were, just finding your informants for the work that you were writing about?
You mean the work in Syria? Yeah, okay. Exactly. Actually, this is very sensitive, especially if your target audience is the woman. So actually, we used to work with the journalist ladies, our colleagues, journalist girls, who can have access to those and to make them feel safe. And we had a very good connections to the shelters for violent women. There is 2 or 3 shelters at that time in Syria for the threatened women. And we just trying through the charge or the NGOs to offer them a safe atmosphere and to make them feel safe to speak about their experience and to offer them a safe shelter. When it was sensitive for us, we don't, as a men, trying to go and to ask them in person. So we are trying to bring some other women to talk to and to make them a good idea about our job. And almost we were able to succeed to save life many girls, especially those girls who were get married to from out from another religion. This was sensitive for us, and we could do it. It's not easy to work in such domain in a country like Syria.
Yeah, thank you. And then Could you share more about how you got connected to Reporters Without Borders? Because I actually hadn't known that that existed before I first met you.
Yes, actually in 2006, I get friends from journalist friends. They became later friends to me. They came to our office in near Damascus, and they work on the topic of Iraqi refugees. You know that thousands of Iraqi refugees came to Syria since 2002 after the collapse of Iraqi regime in Iraq, and it was there are a lot of journalists who were interested to do reportage and to monitor the situation of refugees. So I offered a lot of people help to connect or to have access to the refugee Iraqi in Damascus. So I get to know many friends. One of them was a journalist, and she gave my name to Reporter Without Borders, and she insists that Yahya, you have to leave. It's not safe anymore for you. Then I get this telephone from Paris, from the Reporter Without Borders main center in Paris, telling me that there is a visa waiting for you in the embassy in Beirut. So I sent my family in 2014. Then I follow them after 5 months because I don't have a passport at that time. So I get it in April, then we came by airplane to Germany in 2015, April.
Thank you. Why don't you continue on? Because I want to make sure that all the other things you want to share, you have time for them. I could keep asking you questions, but we'll wait, and people will have more questions for you soon.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll go on then. Actually, after that, we decide to establish an NGO in Germany just to offer refugees more help. You know, in the first years or month, refugees' needs is different from their needs after 2 or 3 years. If you focusing in the first times about the human aid or something like food or medicine, after a few years you will find yourself in front of another needs. They need to be integrated. They need somebody to take by their hands and to give them a chance to express themselves, the talents if they have. And we established this organization called Growing Together, which is mixed between German and Syrian members. And we start doing some events and some workshops and some lectures about the social life, about integration matters. And this was a very good experience because there is a mutual help between both sides. German could help us to know more about the society, how the civil society, how the NGOs in Germany works, and we can help them to give them better understanding about refugee lives, refugees' values, and how to access to the community of refugee, because you know there are a lot of refugees who have a cliche, or they are feeling not comfortable to dealing with other foreigner people. So our task, our mission was how to help refugees to be integrated in the society, and how to offer our colleagues, the German, how to get to know them in better way. After a few years working with Zusammenwachsen, of course, we faced a lot of obstacles, and we get to know much better the networking in Germany, the other NGOs work, and this is very useful for both of us. Our main goal is to enable the young girls and young men, refugees, to be more involved in the public affairs, in issues like human rights, women's rights, civil society, democracy, these values, because we don't know if we will stay here for a long time. I'm sure that many people, including me, will go back to Syria and helping to rebuild the country somehow. There are a lot of things should be done in our country. And if we didn't get benefit from our experience in Europe, not just in Germany, so this could be very bad. A lot of young people now have a better knowledge about the human rights, about the democracy, about this press freedom, about many things, about homosexuality as example, about the individual freedoms, which is not possible to get this knowledge in a country like Syria. And here I want just to make a little comparison, because for those people who don't know too much about Syria, the situation in Syria, I can't say that there is a real civil society in Syria, because there are individual activists, but there is no organization, and the organization in Syria is under the control of the regime, and they are trying to create their own fake, or what's so called gongos, governmental, not governmental organization, which is totally under the control of the regime, and they're trying to introduce, I mean, this authoritarian regime trying to introduce himself as a secular regime. But the truth is not like this. They're controlling these NGOs, and they giving them money under the table and push them to express about the government policies, and they're trying to deceive even the international community and the UN organization, and they are telling all the world that, hey, we have a civil society, just come and pay money for them, but this is not true. So if we could here in Europe or in Germany, getting real knowledge, best knowledge about how the civil society is, this will help us in Syria or in other countries to create our own civil society. It's not just about the civil society values, or it's about everything. There are a lot of Syrians here who wants to get a new knowledge in the technical things, in the car industry, in the ITs, as engineering, and they trying just to get to know better knowledge, and maybe I hope that they can do something for their country in the future. As a journalist here, I'm just trying to say that my task is how to make this, trying to make some bridge between the newcomers or the refugees coming from my country, and to give them idea and to explain more clear about our culture, our society, to our citizens here, or to the German people, and to make them know more about Syria, because there are real lackness in the knowledge, the information about a country like my country, Syria, among the Germans. this is what I want to say in this part, and maybe the last part, if I have any questions, so I will be happy to answer.
Great, thank you.